Hello, my name is Jeremiah Johnson. Welcome to a show many of you have been waiting days, months, even years for, the NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Tournament Selection Show. You do not need me to tell you, but we last crowned a champion in this great event March 16th, 2019. We cannot wait to see what happens over the next 3 weeks as teams play with dreams of advancing to Fort Wayne, Indiana for the semifinals and championship set to take place again at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum March 18th and 19th. Before we start to unveil the field, we would like to introduce Dave McHugh of D3Hoops.com, also the host of Hoopsville, does an outstanding job keeping D3 fans up to speed all season long. Now, Dave, the 10-member selection committee, they had a tough task. They had to identify the 20 at-large berths, but also determine hosts and also split the teams up from the different regions. What do you think was the biggest challenge they faced this season?
Well, first off, we had 10 regions. We have been 8, so that was more regions. There were more teams ranked, so you had more conversations about nitty-gritty stuff, trying to figure out who deserved to be ranked, because those rankings end up impacting other resumes. So there was a lot that they had to deal with on top of, let's be honest, there's tight budgets in Division III, and so when it comes to bracketing, how do you make the most diverse bracket without straying too far outside the lines, as it were? And so for the committee, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours in trying to figure things out. And be honest, at first glance, I think they did a pretty good job this season, especially 2 years after they did it the last time.
We will check in with Dave throughout the show. Every time we show you 8 schools, we'll check in and get Dave's thoughts. It should be a fascinating 30 minutes here on NCAA.com. So let us start by showing you the field. We'll go to the upper left-hand corner of the bracket, and we start with the first host school, Wisconsin-Oshkosh. The Titans grabbed the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference AQ after holding Wisconsin-Platteville off in the championship. Remember, they won the national title in 2019, thus they are still the defending champions. Also, were ranked number 1 in the top 16 revealed a couple of weeks ago. The Titans will play Blackburn this weekend. The Beavers had won just 7 games prior to the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference tournament, but here they are in the NCAA tournament after 4 straight wins last week. The celebration underway at Case Western Reserve. The Spartans in the tournament for the first time in school history, 18 wins, most in program history. They will play Dubuque, American Rivers Conference automatic qualifier, in after defeating Buena Vista 71-52 in that tournament final. Peter Reagan scored 15 points and grabbed 14 rebounds. Moving on, another host school, Mary Hardin Baylor, 25-2, the automatic qualifier representing the America Southwest Conference. They will take on 22-4 Chapman, in for just the 5th time in school history, first since 2016. They are averaging 80 points per game on the season. Whitworth is in, the number 1 ranked team in the most recent Region 10 rankings, automatic qualifier from the Northwest Conference. Whitworth's first game is against Trinity, Texas, who earned the AQ spot from the Southern Collegiate Athletic Association. This is the 11th time they will play in the NCAA tournament. Dave is back as we look at the first 8 teams on the field. You mentioned sending teams to different locations. That came into play in these 8 teams.
Yeah, we'll quickly mention that bottom group. You have a California school in Texas. You have a Northwest Conference school in Texas and a second Texas team. So the fascinating shipping of teams here. Chapman's a really good team, but we'll get to them in a minute. I want to go back to Oshkosh. Listen, as you mentioned, defending national champs technically, since they're the last ones to raise the walnut and bronze. Matt Lewis's team has a balanced attack. They are a scary good team, have risen steadily in the top 25 this year, and they are positioned in one of the top spots in the bracket. You can see how the committee respects them. Blackburn, that's not a typo. They are 11-17. More impressively, they were 1-10 when we turned into the new year. But they were the 3 seed in the SLIAC, got it done when it mattered. They earned that automatic qualifier. Congratulations to them. Case Western Reserve, as you said, dancing for the first time. Todd McGinnis had got a few transfers, some older players. They had put it together. They had a little bit of a rough finish to the season, but they got it done, setting the record for the most wins in a season, including in the conference. That's beyond good for Case Western Reserve, who burst onto the scene. Dubuque went undefeated last year, the season that some played and some didn't. So a lot of expectations on them. They kind of struggled out of the gate. They had 5 losses by the holiday break, but came on strong at the end. And again, back into that corner. Mary Hardin Baylor hosting. That's huge here. By the way, that's a hint to the women's side that their women most likely, if they make the tournament, won't be hosting. 13 straight games coming into the tournament. They have won. top 5 in assists per game. Most dynamic player in the game, Josiah Johnson, scores 25 points per game. His counterpart, Ty Prince, averages 17 points and 4.5 assists. By the way, Cliff Carroll's son, the coach, is the water boy on occasion. They win about 90% of the games if his son's on the sideline, so watch for him. Exactly. Chapman, hey, great team. Chapman's an outstanding team. They are led by Jack Rogan and Hayden Moore. 5 other players in double figures. They are going to be a tough matchup for UMHB. 2 very different squads there. By the way, if you're a fan of the Slapping Class podcast, their assistant coach runs all that. Whitworth, really tough Northwest Conference to play in. Came out of that strong. Damon Jemblowski has a really good team. This team was about to board a plane in 2020 to fly to the East Coast for the round of 16 when everything got called off. They have some unfinished business. And Trinity Tech is kind of an unknown. They've been flying a little bit under the radar. By the way, they knew they were going into the NCAA tournament before the conference championship game started because their opponent, who they ended up losing to, could not qualify for the tournament. So Trinity Texas really had no pressure on them.
Only Dave McHugh gives you Waterboy analysis here on NCAA.com. Let's continue on. Another 8 teams to show you. And another school from Wisconsin will host first and second round games. This is Wisconsin-Platteville, 21-5, taking one of those 20 at-large spots. Quentin Shields leads a balanced attack, averaging 15 points per game. They'll play Marion, Wisconsin on Friday, the AQ representing the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference. This is Marion's 3rd NCAA appearance. Another first-round game to be played at Platteville features St. John's, Minnesota. 12th time in program history the Johnnies will play in the NCAA tournament. They prevailed in an entertaining conference championship game, MIAC, against McAllister. They'll take on Calvin Friday, 20-8. The Knights proved worthy of an at-large selection despite a 76-68 loss to Hope in the MIAA tournament final. 22-6, Elmhurst is in and a host institution this weekend. The automatic qualifier from the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin. The Blue Jays will be making their 7th trip to the tournament. Another one of those schools who had advanced to the Sweet 16 in 2020 before that event was halted. Their first-round opponent, Washington and Jefferson, 24-4, the AQ representative from the President's Athletic Conference. And our final first-round game in this portion of the bracket features Pomona Pitzer, 21-4. The Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference AQ, Pomona Pitzer, is fired up for a 14th NCAA appearance. Also today, we say hello to Northwestern St. Paul, their 9th NCAA appearance, the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference automatic qualifier. Dave, I'll pull the string and I'll let you go with these 8 teams.
Yeah, Platteville, obviously the host up here. They were one of the better teams in the country until the WIAC schedule got a hold of them. First off, we thought it was just Oshkosh that was the better team. It turns out they lost 4 of their last 7, kind of stumbling a little bit here. But that doesn't mean they're not good. They are in their program's 14th NCAA appearance for a reason, 4th in a row. They are a good team. The WIAC is just a really tough conference. Marion, tough matchup there for sure. St. John's, by the way, kind of a quiet year from an outsider's perspective, but they've been good all year in a conference that's kind of rebuilding itself after losing one of its top teams to Division I. This is a team led by Pat McKenzie, whose alma mater. He's leading them to their 3rd straight conference title and 4th straight NCAA appearance. That is just awesome. Tough matchup with Calvin. That's a team that, other than Hope, the only thing on their resume that has been a blip for them, they've lost 3 to their rivals, but they're a very good team. Elmhurst survived the CCIW. Congratulations to them. They get a tough Washington Jefferson team, by the way, most wins in program history. And there's another California team that has been flown somewhere else. We don't have both California teams in California playing in a pod that's a little bit different for Division III. Pomona Pitzer, by the way, had the shot of the year in 2019-2020 when the season came to a close. They beat Emory at Emory, so they're used to travel. That's a good matchup against Northwestern, who, by the way, is known for upsets in the first round.
We are 1/4 of the way through this field of 64. Time now for the bottom left-hand portion of the bracket. A host school is Emory, the automatic qualifier representing the University Athletic Association. Seniors Matthew Schneer, Nick Stuck, and Roman Williams have an 84-24 record during their careers together, highest winning percentage for any class in school history. Emory plays Averett, 17-11. Averett, I should say, the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference representative. Wabash having a fantastic season. The Little Giants averaging 91 points per game. An overtime win in the North Coast Athletic Conference Championship. Jack Davidson, the tournament MVP. The Little Giants, they won the national championship 40 years ago. They hope to do it again. And they'll face 23-2 Barry. The Southern Athletic Association Championship puts Barry in the tournament. They're led by SAA tournament MVP Chase Ellis. Mount Union has earned hosting rights this weekend as an at-large selection. Their fourth NCAA appearance. They have a 6-2 record all-time in the event. Stevens is in as representative of the Middle Atlantic Conference Freedom. This is their fourth ever NCAA bid. Williams will also play a game at Mount Union on Friday. Despite a heartbreaking loss to Wesleyan, Williams is in as an at-large. Williams has committed the least amount of fouls in the country. They will hope to play clean defense against Newman, the Atlantic East Conference representative. Seems like 8 quality teams. Is this portion wide open?
A little bit. Emory's got a very nice spot here as the host, but they've got a battle if they get past the first round, and so does Wabash. Emory making their 9th straight NCAA tournament. That is now the active record in Division III. 10th trip overall. Ended up winning the UAA by 3.5 games. That's just crazy considering how competitive that conference was. But Wash U and Case Western Reserve stumbled late, and Emory basically walked away with the conference title. They are a really good team and want to make up for that last-second buzzer beater I just mentioned against Pomona Pitzer. Averett, last season in the USA South, they head to the ODAC, but they get the title. I think everybody was watching Maryville in that conference, and Averett ends up pulling it off. Wabash, they've been the class of the season, not only in their region, but in the country. Everyone loves the Little Giants. As you mentioned, won the national title 40 years ago. They beat Worcester for the first time 3 times in a season, first NCAA since '98. I love Wabash here. And Barry's a team no one's talking about. They had a great last year. They've been through a few coaches. Trevor Leidick's got the reins now. He continues their success. I'm expecting that Barry-Wabash game to be pretty darn good. Mount Union, congratulations to them. If they didn't have to play Marietta, they'd have an even better resume. Unfortunately, they've lost 3 times to the Pioneers out of the 4 losses they have this season. By the way, everyone talks about the football team. It's the basketball teams of late that have certainly been coming on, especially on the men's side. Stevens, 4th trip to the NCAA, Freedom title winner over Lycoming. They're going to be a good battle there for Mount Union, about 2 teams who probably don't know each other very well. Williams has had a tough season. They essentially got shut down twice due to COVID. They've played less games than most teams have this season, but they are talented. They are tall. They've got some good outside shooting. Kevin App always has his team ready for a good run. They're a quality opponent, and they're going to get Newman. Newman, a bit of an unknown, won the AEC title. They came from behind to do that. They defeated Marymount, who had been their challenge, but Williams is a whole nother challenge for Newman.
Let's move on now. Illinois Wesleyan will host action this weekend, the first NCAA appearance since 2018. They were ranked 5th in the top 16 reveal a couple of weeks ago, in as an at-large after falling in the CCIW semifinals over the weekend. They'll take on Franklin, the 2022 HCAC tournament champions. The 6th-seeded Grizzlies beat number 1 seed Hanover Saturday. Cody Samples scored 34 points in that victory. Wisconsin Lacrosse sees its name in the field. They were 10th in that top 16 reveal a couple of weeks ago. They earned this at-large selection after playing a challenging schedule. This is the 3rd NCAA appearance for the Eagles in school history. They are happy at Heidelberg this afternoon. 4th NCAA appearance and first for the Berg since 2008. It has been 38 years since Heidelberg earned an NCAA at-large selection. Wash U St. Louis, a host school, Washington University grabbing one of those 20 at-large spots. 18-7, playing great defense this season, allowing opponents just under 61 points per game. The Bears will welcome Cornell College, 19-8, the automatic qualifier out of the Midwest Conference. And our final game on this side of the bracket features Wheaton, Illinois, 20-6, an at-large selection, their 12th D3 tournament and 5th bid under Mike Schauer. Wheaton features arguably the best backcourt in Division III as well. They will meet 22-6 Hope. The Flying Dutchman in as the AQ from the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association. Evan Thomas, 20 points, 13 boards in that conference championship win against Calvin. What stands out to you, Dave, about these 8 teams?
I don't normally do this, but I'm going to start with that last game, Wheaton and Hope. That is a darn good first-round matchup, and this is one of those cases where sometimes you just can't avoid some tough matchups. Wheaton has had high expectations, has been playing well in a tough CCIW that's now, going to see a lot of action. Hope, first trip since 2018. They were picked to finish 4th in the conference tournament, defeated Calvin in the title game, 3 games in one of the best rivalries in college basketball. They beat Calvin all 3 times. They've banded together. That is a darn good game, and it's at WashU. By the way, quick note on WashU, they have 2 of the better stories in Division III. You got Jack Nolan, who's undisputably one of the best players in the division, decided to not use his grad transfer to go to D1, stayed at WashU to try and build on what they had in 2020. And then you have Justin Hardy getting a lot of attention. He's battling stage 4 stomach cancer, still playing, got the last basket against Chicago on Saturday in one of the more tremendous moments of the season. Hey, Cornell earned their way here on a double overtime win against Ripon, but that's a tough matchup against WashU. Then we go to the top there. Illinois Wesleyan, they're known for ending Yeshiva's 80-game winning streak in New York City over the holiday break, but they've had their challenges this season. They lost to North Central in the semifinals of the conference, making their 25th appearance, first since 2018, and just the second since 2015. There's a lot of expectations, and being at home in the Shirk Center is a big deal. Franklin, upset special in the HCAC. Terrific run in the conference, upset Hanover. They're going to get a tough matchup there with the Titans. And then Lacrosse, the only thing Lacrosse couldn't figure out this season was Oshkosh and Platteville. They actually had a really good season if you remove those 2 teams from their resume. They've never played Heidelberg. Heidelberg started the season 11-2. We're getting a lot of attention, but unfortunately lost 6 of their next 13. Speaking of schedules you don't like, they don't like seeing Marietta and Mount Union. They don't see them in this first round, but that's a tough battle here in the first game against Lacrosse.
Thank you, Dave McHugh. We're going to take a quick media timeout here on the Division III Men's Basketball Selection Show. We will show you the other 32 teams, the 16 first-round matchups after a short break on NCAA.com.
There's an energy swelling out beyond the limits of your expectations. A universe where fandom reigns supreme. Once you're in it, it changes you. Instead of one you're one of many. A blissful sea of chaos. Go beyond your limits and enter the NCAA universe. Get your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Back on NCAA.com, I'm Jeremiah Johnson. Dave McHugh, the host of Hoopsville, halfway home. Let's see the second portion of the bracket, the upper right-hand portion if you're looking at a paper bracket right now. And our first name on the screen is Marietta, 25-2, number 1 in the country in assist to turnover ratio, number 2 in the most recent D3Hoops.com rankings. They are the AQ from the Ohio Athletic Conference, and they will host games this weekend. First game is against 15-12 Madai, automatic qualifier from the Allegheny Mountain Collegiate Conference. Good news as well for Rochester, New York. The Yellow Jackets will play in the tournament for the 17th time in school history. They've had a lot of success in this event with a 32-15 all-time record, including a national championship in 1990. Despite a loss to Hood in the MAC Commonwealth Championship, Eastern is in. Fantastic season for the Eagles, rewarded with an at-large bid and, yes, a first-ever NCAA appearance. Swarthmore will serve as a host school this weekend. The top-ranked team in the Region 5 rankings, 16th in that top 16 reveal show earlier in February. They'll take an at-large spot in the field, and they will host Keene State on Friday, 20-6, the automatic qualifier representing the Little East Conference. Also games played at Swarthmore, Oswego State, the automatic qualifier out of the SUNYAC. Jeremiah Sparks named tournament MVP. The school Twitter account included the hashtag Let's Dance and Back on Top. Their Friday game is against the aforementioned 20-6 Hood, automatic qualifier from the Middle Atlantic Conference Commonwealth. So you take a look at this screen, Dave. Marietta and Swarthmore, the 2 host schools.
Yeah, interesting here. Marietta, one of the teams that's been getting stronger and better throughout the season. High expectations coming in, and they're living up to them. Van Johnson Center, which you see there, is one of the tougher places to play, but Marietta's also lost at home in the NCAAs. They are on a mission to prove otherwise. They want to get to their first championship weekend, and this is a tremendous opportunity for them. They are a really good shooting team. They are a very good defensive team. Madai is into the tournament 5 years after clinching their last conference title. They got in thanks to a layup with 12 seconds remaining and held on to make their 6th NCAA appearance. This is a tough matchup. It's no surprise. The only thing that surprises me, they're not that far from home in this one. Rochester, another UAA team, stellar SOS numbers, lots of results versus regionally ranked opponents, made it really hard to keep them out of this tournament despite a 680 winning percentage. Luke Vakurtzy is one of the craziest coaches, and I mean that in a good way. He's been in so many different systems that his offense is just kind of a hybrid of everything. By the way, last time they were in Rochester, or I should say last time they were in Marietta, they were playing in the Elite Eight. Eastern, as you said, first time ever getting into the tournament. Hats off to them. They really good run this season. Swarthmore was in the championship game in 2019. They've had high expectations ever since. They have stumbled a few times this season, but they've had the better of their conference mate, Johns Hopkins. This is a team that is really good and fun to watch play when they get it put together. But they've got a tough matchup in Keene State. Ryan Kane always has his teams prepared to play. Tough scheduling, makes it interesting in conference tournaments. They upset the top seed coming in. Ryan Kane and that Keene State team is going to give Swarthmore a game. Oswego State, class of the SUNYAC, went almost undefeated in that conference, which is almost unheard of. Jason Allen's got a really good team, but there's still a little bit of unknowns here. They play the Commonwealth champion here, who came on the second half of the season there in Hood. That's a good matchup for Oswego to kind of get their feet wet, but that second round possible matchup between Swarthmore and Oswego State is juicy.
Thank you, Dave. We're going to continue our fast pace. It's a fast break show here on NCAA.com, and our next host institution is Christopher Newport, the champions of the Coast to Coast Athletic Conference with a sparkling 24-2 record. You might think twice about attacking them inside. They lead all of Division III in blocks per game. Baruch is in, automatic qualifier coming from the City University of New York Athletic Conference. Rowan is really happy right now. They are in as an at-large, 23-5. That record looks mighty nice on the screen. One to savor, just their second NCAA appearance since 2000. Rowan plays Susquehanna on Friday, the AQ representing the landmark conference. The Riverhawks in for the 9th time in school history. They've won 13 consecutive games. Stockton is in, and a host institution as well, 24-4. The Ospreys defeated Rowan in a thriller 95-91 Saturday to earn that conference the NJAC's automatic spot. Rynell Lawrence scored 27 points in the championship. Wilson is in, 18-7 AQ out of the Colonial States Athletic Conference. And the final game on this portion of the bracket features Johns Hopkins, 22-3. They won the Centennial Conference Championship. The Blue Jays cannot wait to participate in the tournament for the 13th time. A trip that begins with a game against Yeshiva and is the champion of the Skyline Conference. They average 21.5 assists per game, number one in all of Division III men's basketball, also number one in the country in field goal percentage, and they feature the nation's top scorer, Ryan Terrell. He plays for the Maccabees. Dave?
Yeah, we're going to start in that bottom corner again because that Johns Hopkins Yeshiva game was the game everyone thought was going to happen in the second round of the 2020 tournament when Hopkins got knocked off in the first round. Hopkins probably the best team in the Centennial Conference despite losing to Swarthmore twice this season, but then got SWAT in the title game. Connor Delaney came back to finish off what they didn't accomplish in 2020. Really, they were probably arguably early. It kind of peaked a little early that year, but then the pandemic hit, so they've got unfinished business. By the way, Delaney played D1 lacrosse last year for Johns Hopkins. This, again, was supposed to be played in Baltimore in 2020. It didn't happen. Yeshiva work. They have to play before sundown on Friday, and they're not, if they win, cannot play until after sundown on Saturday. They are one of the stars of Division III, mainly because they have really brought the Jewish faith to a zenith with this team. The experience outside their basketball center is an experience to behold. So I've been told. I haven't been able to get there yet. Terrell is one of their best scorers, but they also have Leifer and Halbert and other options. They are one of the top teams, but they've only got one win against a top 25 team in their history. They, again, lost that 80-game winning streak to Illinois Wesleyan earlier this season. As we go further up, Stockton, big win for Scott Bittner. He's been waiting to break through in the NJAC as a head coach. They finally get that conference championship. Wilson is their opponent, a little bit of an unknown here for Stockton because Wilson's only in their 7th season as a program, not counting last year. They won in a gym that's very different than that one. It's only got about 300, and they had it packed against Kane. And then you go up to the top. We'll start with Christopher Newport, probably one of the better teams in the country, have been all season, but they play in a crazy conference in the Coast to Coast, which is the old CAC, which brought in some teams from another conference. They didn't play a lot in the second half of the season, kind of didn't have the schedule because of their conference makeup, but got the wins at home. And by the way, them hosting at home means the women will be on the road, which we all kind of expected. Baruch knocked off Lehman. Congratulations to them, but that's a tough matchup. And then Rowan, Joe Crispin's team lost in the conference title, but it's been the Rowan Stockton show all year in the NJAC. They've got a lot of different weapons. Joe Crispin's one of the smarter coaches out there. It'll be fun to see how they match up against a coach that I love and one of the coolest guys in Frank Marcinick and his Susquehanna squad. They've been the class of the landmark for much of the season. They are a tough team. They are a big team. That's a great matchup against Rowan.
1/4 of the field remains. If you are hoping for an at-large bid, you might be a little nervous right now. Let us begin this portion of the bracket by saying hello to Randolph-Macon. No nerves here. They were 27-1 champions of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. The Yellow Jackets also the top-ranked team in that most recent D3Hoops.com poll. Randolph-Macon ranks second in all of Division III in assist-to-turnover ratio. They'll host 17-10 Mitchell, the automatic qualifier hailing from the New England Collegiate Conference. DeSales is in, 22-5, worthy of an at-large selection. It's the Bulldogs' 6th all-time NCAA appearance. Babson also playing the best basketball of the season this weekend. At least they hope to be 18-7. They're an at-large selection. The 2017 champion in the field for the 11th time in school history. Nazareth is hosting action this weekend. Champions of the Empire 8, 9th NCAA appearance, just the second for the school since 2010. Stephen Gable named the Empire 8 Conference Tournament Most Valuable Player. They will host Westfield State on Friday, thanks to a big-time performance from Brandon Hamilton in the MASCAC Championship. The Owls are in the NCAA tournament. He tallied 26 points and grabbed 16 rebounds. Moving on, we see Umass Dartmouth, 15th NCAA appearance as an at-large selection. Umass Dartmouth ranks 4th in the country in assist-to-turnover ratio. Should be a good first-round game when they take on Emerson with a record of 18-7. The Lions' only other NCAA appearance was in 2019. Dave McHugh, it's your turn. What stands out to you?
Hey, Randolph-Macon's been the unanimous #1 in the country much of the back half of the season. Buzz Anthony, one of the best stories in Division III as well. He's basically another coach on the floor. They've won 21 straight, 44 of their last 45, and they do have unfinished business for the last few seasons. They've been the talk of Division III. Mitchell, great job. Won their conference. It's just 4 teams. Likely the last year in AQ comes out of that conference. And, of course, get a tough matchup with Randolph-Macon. No surprise. If you followed Hoopsville last night, the mock selections came down to a couple teams. DeSales was one of them. We, as a group, did not pick DeSales. This is the one we missed. Congratulations to the Bulldogs on getting in. They certainly deserved it. Untimely injuries have kind of been a little bit of a challenge. They lost in the semifinals, but they had a strong non-conference schedule and strong wins against other opponents in the rankings. And so they got the attention of the committee. Hats off to Babson. They're a good team, and that's going to be a real tough battle with DeSales. That's the 2017 champions, remember, but obviously no one from that team is pretty much back. Nazareth, hey, if you're Jeff Van Gundy, you're proud of your alma mater right now. They won that Empire 8, knocking off the top seed Utica, which, by the way, bad news, Utica. I'm sorry you didn't make the tournament. It's the 4th conference title, though, for Nazareth. Westfield State, good job for them getting out of the MASCAC, but that's a tough battle with Nazareth, and good job that Nazareth's hosting that. Umass Dartmouth, big wins this season. They have been the talk of New England, especially at 24-4. Unfortunately, taking on another New England squad against Emerson, that's unfortunate, but that's a good matchup to get them rolling, and then a good matchup possibly against Nazareth in the second round.
Page remains. Wesleyan, Connecticut is a host school. They were ranked 4th in the top 16 reveal a couple of weeks ago. They defeated Williams in the NESCAC championship in an overtime game called an instant classic to grab the automatic spot for that league. Hello Husson, 15-9, representing the North Atlantic Conference. Nichols is watching this show, knowing they had a spot secured thanks to a 5th straight Commonwealth Coast Conference championship. The school's all-time games and rebounding leader in program history, Matt Morrow, 22 points, 13 boards in that conference title game. You can celebrate Rensselaer today. The Statesman Inn is an at-large. They'll make their 7th NCAA appearance. Our final host school, WPI, who earned the automatic bid from the NEWMAC, first conference championship title since the 2013 season. NEWMAC tournament MVP John Lowther scored 23 points in a 16-point win over Emerson. They'll take on Vassar, 18-8, coming from the Liberty League. One game remains. It features St. Joseph, Connecticut. seeing its name in the field for just the second time ever. They defeated Albertus Magnus Sunday to win their second straight conference championship, the Great Northeast Athletic Conference. And our last school, seeing its name on the screen, is Penn State Harrisburg. That 23-3 record looks pretty impressive. Back-to-back United East Conference championships for the Lions, who were led by tournament MVP Nate Curry. Dave?
Now, Wesleyan's obviously the top dog in this group, and they deserved it after the season they had. As you said, they had a thriller against Williams in the championship game that went to overtime. Looked like they had it, by the way, in the last couple of minutes, but it got a little bit interesting. They're a really well-coached team, and they aren't to be discounted. They will take on a interesting Husson team. Husson can't get very far into the mileage restrictions, so that's about as far as the committee can probably get them legitimately. A little bit New England-centric here with Nichols and RPI, but that's a good matchup, too, for those two programs. RPI has played really well this season and has a strong resume, but Nichols has always been a tough out. WPI, Chris Brantley's team is darn good. They have a sophomore in John Adams, not to be confused with the founding father from Massachusetts. He was actually in his first season and averages 14 points a game, shoots 53%. WPI is always a tough and good team. They're waiting to get a test, and they've got one here. Vassar surprised everybody, got into the tournament. They're a good squad. That's a tough matchup, but that's how the NCAA tournament works. St. Joseph's, this is the Jim Calhoun team he decided to retire early in the season, handed over the reins fully to Glenn Miller, who's really been coaching the team for the most part for many years. They're a really good team. Got their first loss of the season just a few weeks ago against Yeshiva. They were the last undefeated team in the country. And Penn State Harrisburg, no, they're the ones who knocked off Johns Hopkins in 2020 that ruined that Yeshiva-Hopkins matchup for round 2. Do not overlook Harrisburg.
One final thought from you, Dave. Thanks for going through this entire field. It has been quite a 2 years. We're anticipating this event. What are you most looking forward to?
It's diverse, so we've got lots of great matchups everywhere. We're going to get upsets because the parity in Division III has been there for years, and now with the year after pandemic and students who stayed longer than expected and transfers and all that, these are deep teams. We're going to see upsets. We're going to see great battles. We're going to see a really great run to Fort Wayne, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns. Again, a diverse bracket allows for that, and it's a true national championship Division III. I'm really excited. We had an amazing tournament in 2020 that got pulled up after 2 rounds. This is the best we can get coming out of that, and I'm really looking forward to tipping it off on Friday.
Dave McHugh, D3Hoops.com, also Hoopsville. Thanks for your contributions to the show.
Thank you.
Once again, first and second round games will begin this weekend with the final 16 teams moving on to sectionals the following weekend. After March 12th, our final 4 teams will punch their tickets to Fort Wayne, where those national semifinals and championship games will be held at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. You can watch the semifinals here on NCAA.com. The championship will be on the CBS Sports Network. We would like to recognize all of those student athletes and coaches who have persevered through much the last few years. We are so happy this event will tip off this weekend. Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to Dave McHugh of D3Hoops.com. You know their site. They will be covering this tournament extensively from start to finish. I am Jeremiah Johnson. Thanks for watching and enjoy the tournament.